Hello, everyone. Jason here. Um, this week, the assistive tech in the classroom is basically just broken into three categories. It can be low tech, mid tech, or high tech, which could be anything as far as a pencil or a pencil grip to a calculator to a computer with voice recognition software. And basically, assistive tech is anything in the classroom that allows your student or students to perform better. Um, the past experiences I've had with some of the technologies is I use a lot of calculators and computers, obviously. Taking the higher level math classes, like when I'm in differential equations or my advanced calculus, which is basically proving that the theories they give you in Calc 1 and 2 and 3 are all true. We use a lot of calculators or computers to help look up information to help us solve the problems. And another one that I've kind of gotten used to is I like using pencil grips. I had an accident a few years back where I lost part of my right thumb, and I'm learning to write with my left hand. So I like using grips with my left hand as I'm learning to write. Um, Out of the assistive technology sites, I like the Therasimplistic. As I dug around on, I think it could be useful as a teacher. Looked around on it and found a whole section about hearing, and they had one section where it had a whole a workup of the inner ear and talks about how the ear works, and then there was another page on there where they had a real simple graph. Across the top was frequency, down the side was the decibel levels, and then they would have pictures of maybe a dog or leaves in the wind or an airplane or a cat, and it would put it on the graph as to about where each thing was on the frequency range and how many decibels they would make, so that if you had a child that was hard of hearing, you could understand what frequencies and decibels they could see and hear, and then you could go back to that chart and pretty easily tell the kinds of noises they were going to be able to hear. Um, so there was the three that I picked out were existence, communication, and environmental interaction for my technologies. Existence are things obviously that are used to sustain life. These are low tech devices. Some can be higher tech, but devices such as spoons with larger handles. Another example is in my last job, we had a lot of severely disabled people, and we had spoons that instead of having big handles, they were twisted because people couldn't move their wrist or arms the right way, so they'd have all kinds of weird angles on them. We also had the little pickup sticks, the grippers, but they were specially designed where they were really easy up top to squeeze so that people that couldn't bend over or couldn't move their arms in certain ways could still be functional grabbing things off the ground. Applications with communications includes both written and expression, things such as message boards, FM systems, and picture systems. My last job, we had braille printers, and we even had these glasses that people could wear. They were expensive, so not everybody had them, but we would allow people to try them on the floors, and they would describe what you were looking at, and it was scary as to actually how detailed these glasses were. I mean, you could look at somebody and it would tell them if they wanted enough detail, hey, you're looking at a guy with brown hair wearing a red shirt with a Nike symbol in the left corner and the word Nike under it, wearing jeans. He's smiling, wearing glasses. It was just the detail on these things were just extreme. It was almost scary how detailed these things could get. Um, so another one was environmental interaction, which also includes things of daily living. Some examples of these are, adjustable desk, alternate light switches, and switches for computers. When I worked at Envision, which had 80% blind people on the floor, and we also had a pride department, which was where the severely handicapped people worked. All the machines had extra large stop switches for the people to push. We also had these little buttons, little stickers that they were little stickers, and you'd put them on top of buttons, and they were raised. They were little bumps. Sometimes if it was a keypad of like say 1 through 9, we might just put it on the 5 button right in the middle so they could figure out where they were going. Other times they would be put on buttons that were used the most, and then we had different sizes of these numbers or of these little buttons, so that if we needed to put multiple ones close to each other, somebody could tell which button they were pushing by the size of the little bump on top of the button. And then same thing with when we'd make trash bags, the blind people had to measure those bags. They didn't know how long they were. So what we did is we'd have a tape measure that was mounted up somewhere, or a ruler that was about, I think the ruler was 6 feet long, and we made little slides on it so they could slide it down. But first we'd put the buttons, every 1 inch you'd have every 1 inch would be a small little dot, and then at the 1 foot mark was a big dot. And so they would feel down these, they could feel, okay, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, and 6 inches or whatever, and then they would slide their little slide to where it needed to be, and from there they could put a bag on the end of the tape measure and measure it to where their slide was, and they didn't have to ask for help to figure out how long bags were, to make sure that the machines were producing bags that are the correct size. Another example of technology, we actually started this at my last company, or at Envision, and I found it. You can find it on the Envision website, but in 2016, it was Envision Wichita and Gimbal Beacons joined forces as part of a joint project here in Wichita. Gimbal installed 1,200 beacons all over the city of Wichita. They're Bluetooth low energy signals that broadcast and navigate They broadcast navigational information that's informative and relevant, like timely relevant messages, so that blind people can travel the city and know exactly where they're at and not have old, out-of-date information. I mean, these things they update very quickly because they're only for Wichita. So when construction happens or things like that, if you're walking around and you have Google may not know a sidewalk is closed ahead of you, where these things do. Another thing that we were pretty implemented in is, like, when you see a crosswalk around our old building, we had went through with the city, and in a joint venture, pretty much all the crosswalks that were within a few miles of our work were all built out of brick. And a lot of people would wonder why this is. Well, that's because when people are walking with their canes, they can feel the difference between the brick and the concrete or the asphalt of the road, so they know they're staying in the crosswalk. Another thing that we have done is at our last company is all the crosswalks at our area are now, they're all voice activated, so it'll tell people when to walk and when to stop, so that blind people know when to go and when to stop, because they can hear the assistive technology